All right, welcome back to Hemi Brothers. We are back here again working on this. So we've kind of, I don't know if you could remember from any of them last ones, there used to be a wall right here. We got that tore out. We got all the fans out, any of the electrical stuff that was hanging down. Where we have got clearance all the way through this building to get a skid loader in here. So we just went up and picked up a jackhammer and have started to knock out these steps, which we also found out there's no rebar in them, so that's gonna make that go a little easier. But anyways, we're gonna wind up knocking these steps out. This concrete rolled into the pit. Yeah, that wall right there, same thing, get knocked to where we can pour over the top of it, to where this is all one even floor once we're done. So yeah, the objective is to turn this into a useful space. It's not very useful the way it is now, so. Okay, so we've come far this week. We're coming from this pit, still having concrete here. We knocked this out, we filled the pit in. We leveled it off real good to where we've got a 4-inch slab here. We got filled with rebar. brought our drain up from the floor where we'll still have access to it for future use, for clean out or whatever. You never know. So yeah, we're literally street from that floor to this floor. Everything will be done with wheelbarrow, so that won't be too fun. But anyhow, then we've got right here, we have got our curb for our flush tank. This flush tank right here, you like? There we go. So we'll be going back up there, but we took it out to work. So anyhow, we've got, I guess it'd be a 3.5 inch curb is what we figured we could get down to after testing the flush wave. For most of the way, we want it to be user friendly for the bottle calves, but yet it needs to be tall enough to where their bedding does not get wet. So we're glad we did that test run, because baby calf is gonna much rather use a little 3.5 inch curb than you know, a 6 inch curb or something like that. So we've got a rebar on 2 foot centers all the way up for this curb. And right here, if you can kind of see, the floor does a little wave. So our curb's going to do a little wave with the floor. Just part of repurposing an old building, trying to work with what you got. So we've got a 4 inch, I guess a 3.5 inch flush curb all the way to here. And right here, it's going to jump up to a 2x6, so it'll be 5.5 inches tall. Kind of, we made it wave up because it needs to be taller here because the wave is taller, but still probably short enough that a calf can step over it. Then up here, it needs to jump up to a 2x8, so we're at what, close to 7.5 inches here, because the flush wave again is really tall. Up on this first, I don't know if this is 5 or 6 feet here from the flush tank. And they're probably not going to want to use that. We'll just see, we might put a little gate or a fence here to where they can't injure themselves jumping over it or whatever, I don't know. Then up here is where the flush tank is actually going to sit, on top of this wall here. And we did a pretty good job of framing this. You should shine it down in there, Eli. So we went ahead and used wall ties and did this all right. And then we wrapped this wall all the way around to this wall so that there is no way any water can run around and get the bedding wet. So yeah, that's kind of what we did there. And then we've got a wall to retain the bedding through that old exit out, that old exit door there. Keep sawdust off that door, and there'll obviously be a gate there in the summer, and in the winter we can close that door and keep the wind out of here, as well as the door can be closed here too. But like me and my brother Nathan, we've had a lot of experience pouring concrete where we used to work when we were in college, in construction just in general. And we framed a ton of walls up like this with the old plywood forms and the wall ties, 2x4s. We didn't use what we call stiffies. You'd have vertical runners here to make it even better, but we're just kind of using what we got. So yeah, kind of funny, these wedges here. If anybody knows what they're actually called, like technical name, leave it in the comments, because I've heard them called cat eyes, and I've got one here. I've heard them called cat eyes. What we called them in construction when I was in college is too inappropriate to to say on YouTube. I'm sure what we called it is not the technical name for it, but it's pretty funny, but I can't say that here. Anyways, So yeah, if anybody knows what these are actually called, they're just a wedge, but I'm sure they've got an actual name. But you know how construction is. Everything gets called something else. So anyhow, yeah, we'll be pouring this next week. And we should be about ready for, once we get this poured, we can tear the forms out, get everything cleaned up, and then the Arnson guys can come in and install the computer feeder, which will go right in there. I guess while we've got this flush tank pin around there, anyway. This tin, while this flush tank's out, we're kind of waiting on that. We might pull some of this tin down and replace it. We've got some spare sheets around. We might actually put some leftover poly stuff from the robot barn. This rotted out really bad because of the flush tank, all the splatter from the well water. So now would be the time to address that. But anyways, we'll keep you in the loop with what goes on here. So thanks for watching. Have a good day.